Commander.
There's a lot of new gameplay features to XCOM 2. We're really proud of the Procedural Map System. One of the biggest pieces of fan feedback we got was that they did not want to replay the same map twice. And they like the maps, but once they started exhausting them, they wish that they had more. So we created a Procedural Map System that ensures you will not see the same layout twice. It mixes and matches pieces, and it'll ensure maximum replayability. We did it because we always wanted to do it. Like you said, Jake said, with Enemy Unknown, we tried. It didn't work out because we were going a little too random rather than procedural, which has logic behind it to still make it look good and play good, but still have a sense of you don't know what's coming around the corner. But the team did a great job in pre-production for XCOM 2 to say we're going to dedicate a large amount of our mind share to crack that nut. We want to figure it out. So we came up with a system and used the lessons that we learned from Enemy Unknown. On Enemy Unknown, when we did do tests with random maps early in development, like I said, they were too random and we hadn't gone through the experience of building final shippable fixed maps. Now that we did that on Enemy Unknown, we took elements of handcrafting maps and merged them with this procedural system. So it just was the right time to do it with XCOM 2. There is a huge amount of changes, both to soldiers and to enemies. We have way more aliens than we had in Enemy Unknown, and then each one of those aliens has a lot more abilities that they can use on you. You saw examples like the Viper's Tongue and Bind. They're very deadly abilities like that make the aliens terrifying when you come across them. And then the soldiers, you need to use group tactics to overcome those aliens. So the soldiers have a lot more interesting soldier class abilities. And some of the classes themselves, like the Ranger you mentioned, which has the sword, melee combat, and the Specialist, which has the hovering gremlin drone robot, that you can send them out almost as a pet to do these really cool things like hacking enemies, or succeeding at objectives on the mission type. We thought the framework of that system was really successful. It had a lot of depth to it, but it was very simple. It was clear choices. So we wanted to keep that framework there, but the soldier abilities are very different, very cool, and you have some new templates that you can experiment with. The Ranger, for instance, can be more of a melee damage dealing unit or a concealment driven unit, or you can mix those two by selecting different abilities from different sides of the tree. So we really like that structure. We're just adding new abilities. Yeah, absolutely. You can't have XCOM without a strategy layer, and that hook between strategy and combat has to be very strong. So we are planning on that. You now have a retrofitted large-scale alien vessel from the old war that will become your XCOM base. So after you establish a resistance, they'll take that over as their base, and it can actually fly around the world. And you'll need to do that to be on the run from the aliens that are trying to thwart any resistance movement that you inspire. We're not talking too much more details beyond that at this point, but you can rest assured there's going to be a cool strategy there. You know, no, there's definitely some good feedback there. We think Overwatch is a fine mechanic, but there's other things you can do now that aren't just necessarily move and Overwatch. You saw the new Concealment System. So you now, when you start off a mission, the aliens don't know you're there. And that's very unlike Enemy Unknown, where when you would move, you would trigger an alien, and then they would know you're there and scamper to cover. Now you can sneak up on enemies at the start of a map. So you don't need to just move immediately Overwatch, move immediately Overwatch. You'll get a camera pan to where these unalerted enemies are, and then you can manage and plan an ambush on them if you want to. So there's a very different feel when you start tactical now. After you're spotted, then it goes into classic XCOM combat because the aliens raise the alarms and they know you're on the map. But you have these cool new changes to the mechanics to play with the battlefield in new ways. That is very, very difficult to do. You can try it, but I don't think you'd succeed because XCOM at its core is still a combat game. You know, it just hit me. You know, it's XCOM, which is extraterrestrial combat, and we love the combat in XCOM. The game is about having weapons and taking down aliens. So you don't just want to sneak around the map and try to avoid conflict. You are trying to move a resistance, and some of that is taking the enemy down. If you try to do that, you'll probably sneak by a few groups, and then once you get alerted, they'll all converge on you, and it'll be very, very tough to pull off your objective. Yeah, they're dynamically placed in a similar way to Enemy Unknown. There's some changes. They do some more patrolling now. Before you're alerted, they can walk around the map in all different types of areas and locations. They might be in groups of 3. There might be individuals as well. It's very, very dynamic and very random with how they're placed, and you can't predict how they're going to come across you. So the other really cool element, I mentioned the procedural maps. You can now get procedural mission objectives on top of those maps as well. So defuse the bomb and rescue the VIP on Enemy Unknown, they were heavily scripted. They took place on one type of map, and the VIP or the bombs were always in the same location, right? Now you can get objectives anywhere on these procedural maps. They're not tied to one specific map type, and you don't know when they're going to show up. So you have the objective of always taking out the aliens, but you always have a secondary objective that would foster the movement of the resistance, whether that's gathering important intel from an Advent chest, hacking into an Advent security network to take down their infrastructure, destroying a facility, sort of like you saw with the destruction of Monument. There's so many different things you can do, and that is no longer tied to these fixed maps, which we're really excited about. Yes, there is multiplayer. You can mix and match your squad, your dream squad, and play against an individual opponent, and now you can do it on procedural maps, which we're pretty excited about. We had a great time releasing XCOM overall, Enemy Unknown. We were very proud of it. We're very proud of the experience, and we can't wait to see if we can keep the momentum rolling. For XCOM 2? Yeah. We're proud of a few things. We're definitely proud of, we're keeping the spirit of a lot of the things we liked about Enemy Unknown, but layering in all the procedural elements. We really talk a lot about player value for dollar, and we want the game to be as replayable as possible. We don't want to have those moments of, I've done this before, and we're very proud that we're creating a system for that. And then on top of that, we really want to foster a relationship with the modding community. So we're having a lot of modding tools, and we can't wait to see what modders do with our game.
What the hell is that?